You ever notice how the world can feel loud, but the things that change it most happen in silence? No headlines, no applause, just one small moment, one simple gesture that nobody sees, and somehow everything starts to shift. Today, I want to tell you a story about a quiet revolution. Not the kind with crowds and speeches, but the kind that begins with a shaky hand, a humble choice, and a kindness so small it looks like nothing until it turns into everything. There's a truth you learn with age. Life isn't really shaped by the big dramatic scenes. It's shaped by the little ones. The pause before you speak, the decision to show up, the moment you choose compassion, when it would be easier to stay cold. Because the older you get, the more you realize. Most people aren't asking for miracles. They're just asking for proof that they still matter. And sometimes one heartfelt gesture can do what months of advice can't. It can wake a person up from the inside. It can remind them who they used to be. It can make them believe again in themselves and in other people. So let me take you to a small place. Quiet streets, worn sidewalks, familiar faces, where one simple act of kindness didn't just help one person, it changed an entire community. In a town like this, people don't really say, "I'm struggling." They say, "I'm fine," and they keep moving. There was a man there, let's call him Elias, late 60s, shoulders slightly bent, like life had been leaning on him for a while. Not dramatic, not pitiful, just tired. He used to be the kind of man who fixed things. Chairs with loose legs, radios that only hissed, broken gates. If something in town stopped working, someone would say, "Take it to Elias." But time has a way of shrinking your world. His wife had passed a few years earlier. His kids lived far away. And slowly, the shop he once loved started feeling like a room full of ghosts. He still opened the door most mornings, but the sign outside never got updated. The paint on the frame chipped. The bell above the door rang less and less. And when people stopped coming, Elias didn't complain. He just became smaller, quieter, like he was trying not to take up space. Now, across town, there was a woman named Maris. Not famous, not rich, just the kind of person who notices things other people walk past. She noticed Elias too, not in a nosy way, in that gentle, human way. The way you notice someone's smile doesn't reach their eyes anymore. The way you notice a man who used to stand tall now looks like he's apologizing to the air. One afternoon, Maris walked past his shop and saw the closed sign hanging crooked. But the door wasn't locked. Inside, she could hear the faint sound of a radio and a chair scraping the floor. She knocked softly, like you knock when you don't want to disturb someone's grief. Elias opened the door a crack, surprised to see anyone. His face was polite, but his eyes looked distant, like he was somewhere else. Maris didn't ask big questions. She didn't say, "Are you okay?" Because people who are hurting rarely know how to answer that. Instead, she said something simple. "I found something I think belongs to you." And she held out a small object, an old pocket tool, the kind Elias used to carry everywhere. Elias blinked like he wasn't sure if he was dreaming. He took it slowly, turned it in his hands, and his throat tightened. He hadn't lost it recently. He'd lost it years ago. Maris had found it during a cleanup day behind the community hall, buried under leaves and dust. She could have tossed it into the trash like everyone else, but she cleaned it up, polished it, and then she walked it across town just to return it. Now listen carefully. That tool wasn't worth money. It wasn't a treasure. It wasn't some dramatic gift. But to Elias, it was a piece of himself. It reminded him of days when his hands were steady, his work mattered, and people counted on him. And something about that small return, that quiet respect, made his eyes water. He tried to play it off, like men from that generation often do. But Maris didn't rush him. She didn't laugh it away. She just stood there and said, "I remembered you used to fix things, and I thought, maybe you still do." Elias didn't answer right away. Because how do you explain what it feels like to be remembered? To have someone look at you like you're still useful, still seen, still here? A few days later, Maris did something else, something even quieter. She put a small note on the town's bulletin board. Not a big announcement. No drama. It said, "If something in your home needs fixing, take it to Elias. He's the best pair of hands in this town." No extra explanation. No pity. Just respect. And at first, nothing happened. But then a young mom showed up with a broken stroller wheel. Elias fixed it in 10 minutes and didn't even charge her. He just shrugged and said, "It's fine." Then an older man brought in a lamp that hadn't worked since his wife was alive. Elias repaired it carefully, like he was handling a memory. Then a teenager came in with a guitar string issue. Elias didn't just fix it. He showed the kid how to do it next time. And little by little, the bell above the door started ringing again. Not because the town suddenly became rich, not because Elias became viral, but because one person gave others permission to care. And here's what's strange about humans. Most of the time, people want to help. They're just waiting to see if it's safe, waiting for someone else to go first. Maris went first. And that's how kindness spreads. Not with fireworks, with footsteps. Now here's the part nobody expected. A month later, Elias was walking home when he saw something on the bulletin board. Another note. Different handwriting. It said, "Elias fixed my father's radio. I hadn't heard him laugh like that in years." Then another appeared. "He repaired my daughter's bike. She rode it down the street like the world was brand new." Then another. "Elias, you helped me more than you know." And that's when the twist hit. This wasn't just about the things Elias fixed. It was about what got fixed inside people. Because when Elias started showing up again, other people started showing up too. Neighbors who hadn't spoken in years started greeting each other. A local cafe began offering pay what you can soup on Wednesdays. A young guy started mowing lawns for older folks without charging. The town didn't become perfect, but it became softer. And the wild part? Elias didn't even realize he was at the center of it, until one morning, Maris walked in and placed something on his counter. A small wooden sign someone had carved. It read, "Repairs and Second Chances." Elias stared at it for a long time. Then he whispered, almost embarrassed, "I thought I was done." And Maris said, "No, you were just waiting to be reminded." That's the twist, isn't it? Sometimes the person you're saving doesn't look like they need saving. They just look quiet. So what's the lesson here, especially for those of us who've lived long enough to know how hard life can get? It's this: the most powerful revolutions often begin with quiet compassion. Not big speeches, not perfect plans. Just one person choosing to be human, on purpose. A small gesture can pull someone back from the edge. It can return their dignity. It can restart their hope. And maybe, just maybe, you don't need to change the whole world. Maybe you only need to change one moment for one person. Because when you do that, you never know how far the ripple will travel. So if you've been feeling like your kindness won't matter, like the world is too cold, like your small effort won't make a dent, remember Elias. A simple return tool. A small note on a bulletin board. A quiet spark. And suddenly, a whole town began remembering how to care again. If this story moved you, subscribe for more timeless life lessons.